I only brought 6 steps, so I feel like, no, I'm kidding. Is there 9? You brought the 9 steps to stellar shipping. I don't have 9. I'm just going to talk my way through this, so bear with us. I don't know, we sort of just met this morning, Steve and I, so I'm just going to intro us a little bit. There's no information on these slides that I'm aware of that intros our rules. So just give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm COO of Luminess Air. Luminess, and I'll get into some slides here about who we are, and really that's what I want to focus on in terms of subscription. But I've spent time at a lot of e-commerce companies, direct sales companies, some big box retailers throughout a 22-year career now, I guess. So Stella & Dot previous to Luminess. Ladies in the room with Stella & Dot jewelry? Anybody? No? One? A couple? All right, thank you. Build-A-Bear workshop for a couple of years. I was with Collective Brands, owned Payless Shoes and Stride Right Shoes, and started my career actually with Borders Books and Music when we merged with Walden. So that was back a while ago. So anyway, been in the retail e-commerce space pretty much my entire career. So just anxious to share some of that with you guys today, and we'll get into it. But I'll let you do your intro, and we'll get started.
Well, I'm Steve Rifai. I'm actually a mechanical engineer by training, but about 20 years ago, a friend of mine told me about this postage startup called Endicia that we were about to launch. So I joined them, and we launched Endicia 20 years ago. And quickly we decided that the right application for it was shipping for e-commerce specifically. And we grew Endicia from basically 0 to billions of dollars of postage that were processed by customers simply by shipping online with the Postal Service and adding Postal Service shipping into their mix. We got acquired by Stamps.com 4 years ago, and Stamps.com has assembled a great suite of products related to e-commerce shipping technology that I'll show you a little bit of that in a bit. But basically, we're really excited to be here. We have a lot of existing customers in the audience, and I think everybody should be looking at their shipping mix and taking a look at how to leverage the best shipping solutions from a lot of points of view. And looking forward to talking to you about that today.
Where's the rest of it? There we go. So a little bit about Luminess. So we're multiple brands, and we've actually been around for quite a while. We're just getting into, I think, becoming a little bit more well-known and into a little bit of retail space and then direct sales space. But multiple brands. We've 20 years in the making, 15,000 weekly customers. We've had over 5 million airbrush units sold. So here's where you may know us. If you've ever seen the infomercial, the TV advertisement with the airbrush makeup, various iterations, yeah, a few of you. That's essentially our core business is in the what you call direct response channel. And the airbrush system is really the hero SKU behind the scenes that really drives and has driven the business. In the past couple of years, we've launched cosmetics. So now we have a full cosmetic line and skincare line to complement the airbrush system. So we're really excited, and we've really, in the past 2 years, started to really change the company, diversify a little bit with our product line, diversify with our channels. So the subscription element to that is critically important to the revenue stream. But as you can see here, and you'll tell the marketing slides from my slide, these are clearly marketing. But we're Luminess Air, Luminous Cosmetics, Luminous Skincare, Contour, which is focused on skin health, hair removal products, devices, which is a really exciting brand for us. That's you've probably seen on QVC. We just did a large show with QVC on the 14th. And then sets, which is this really cool thing we came up with last year, individual, like a translucent powder applications, which are essentially single-use powder applications. And we have an SPF product that's launching here in August. Under that as well, we can do various samples. So it's just a really neat add-on business for us to get into. So those are the primary brands for the business. Primary channels, again, are going to be, it's all direct to consumer. So the ways that we'll do that is through the infomercial model, the direct response model. We'll do that through our direct sales channels. So we actually launched in April of 2017. distributor model. So like I was going to use Advocare as an example, but that's not the best one since they're doing away with theirs. But an Isogenics, Plexus, 31 Gifts, if you're familiar, Stella & Dot, that in-home sales distributor model. So that's growing at about a 70% annual clip right now for us. So that's a really exciting new channel with the cosmetics. In the Contour brand, we're actually now launching a show there. So all these brands, it's interesting, everything that we've done here in the past couple of years is really where it was sort of focused on the airbrush system and the makeup that goes along with that to now have this full line of products available through multiple channels has been quite a challenge. So we're sort of in the midst of incorporating a lot of the things that I'm hearing in all the various conversations here at this summit. These are things that are relatively new to us in terms of digging into the consumer insights and information that's out there. So we're applying that currently to all these brands and really, as you guys know, customer continuity and loyalty, which is why we're here, whether it's a subscription box or a service as part of your offering, is super critical to driving revenue. I mean, typically it's going to all be incremental, right, to what you're doing. So those are the brands and who we are. This is my slide. Looks a lot different than the marketing slides. So the things that I'll talk about, and for me, it's interesting. I think all of this is sort of wrapped up in experience, right? So it's how are you leveraging as a company all of the data that you potentially could be gathering and making sure that you're doing something critical with that information to acquire customers or retain customers or whatever your goals are there. But I think the key thing for me is that within that, which tends to get somewhat overlooked, is the post-purchase experience, right? So returns are obviously the one primary piece of post-purchase, but again, ideally that's affecting a small percent of your customers. So ideally, so I think when you think about post-purchase and being a consumer or how you connect with your customers and what type of insights you're pulling out of that, I think there's a couple of things. I think one is time, right? And we live in this world. Who in here are Amazon Prime customers? Yeah, it's hard not to be, right? I mean, and how many of you use it quite frequently? Almost the same amount, right? And it's interesting the one-day delivery war that's going on now between Walmart and Amazon. But the reality of it is I don't know how many of you sitting in the room are now having meetings saying, okay, tomorrow we've got to flip to one-day guaranteed delivery. I mean, does anybody raise your hand and say that's something you're aspiring to do anytime soon? Yeah, exactly. Hey, there's one. All right, interesting. So I think for the rest of us, it's really how do you operate in a world that focuses on retention and customer experience and leveraging your operations to do that, and whether that's your carrier network, your processing time, and that's a very detailed, very margin impactful decision-making process, right? Because you need to meet the customer's expectations. But it's also, and everybody's probably free shipping, right? I mean, I don't, some folks can get away with flat rate, but these days customers are expecting that it's going to be really fast. So define that, and certainly they don't want to pay unless you're demonstrating some value to them, which they just can't do without, right? So I think the challenge of time becomes a very real issue. So what I would say to focus on in all the places that we've been at is really the fulfillment speed, because 2/3 of your cost is going to be wrapped up in transportation, and about 1/3 is going to be wrapped up in your operating expenses, right? So if you want to think about where to invest, making sure that you've got systems and operations that allow you to get an order as quickly as you can that a customer has just placed, and getting that to the teams that can pick, pack, and ship as quickly as they can to get that out the door. Just a day. But if somebody puts an order in at 6 p.m. and you can get that order onto your pick pack floor 2 hours later and get it on a truck that day, can save 2 days potentially if it's a Friday or it covers a weekend. So that experience of very quickly being, I just put this order in. I'm sure you guys have had experiences like this where you get an order in. And it's like 2 days later, it's at your door, and you're thinking, and I'm not talking about Amazon Prime. Set that aside for a second. I'm just talking about the other places that you go to shop. That's a really good experience, right? I mean, that there's a bit of, yeah, I expect things to be fast, but when it beats your expectations, I think that's what you want. It's a little bit of a wow factor for customers to want to continue shopping. Same thing on your returns process, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking through returns here today, but that means a lot of things to a lot of different companies and industries. But the key thing there is really speed that up. And then your carrier partners, and I think this is, Steve and I were talking about this earlier today, there's so much that you can do, right? Because I think everybody's considering cost. Everybody's trying to meet the free shipping challenges. So whether you do that through, anything over $80 will do free shipping, or whatever your threshold is, a lot of companies will do that now. Express, which is typically 5, 6, 7% of what a company's shipping out, overnight, 2-day packages. Typically, everybody's at about a 5 to 6%. Customers will pay for that, but they're not always willing to pay for what they perceive to be standard, fast delivery expectations. So, therefore, what's your network look like? Are you big enough to have multiple facilities? Are you 3PL environment, or are you handling fulfillment and distribution yourself? I would imagine a lot of you guys at the companies you're at are probably leveraging 3PLs. And if not, just out of curiosity, how many of you are actually doing 3PL service to fulfill? Oh, most of you are doing it in-house. That's interesting. So I think if you're doing it in-house, then the dilemma is even the post office now, starting really this year, is going towards zone pricing. So how many of you are lightweight shippers, first-class mail packages? Probably only a handful because you're shipping boxes out. Most of your UPS folks or FedEx folks. So if you think about that, that really changes the dynamic in terms of cost, because if you are shipping priority mail as a primary service, or even if you're using FedEx or UPS, everybody's zoning. So if you happen to be in Houston and 55-60% of your packages are heading to the East Coast, which is probably what everybody else is seeing, somewhere in that range, even up to 70%, or you're shipping to the West Coast, there's not a lot in the middle. So if you're not positioned in one of those two areas, you're obviously going to be paying a little bit more. So if you can get closer, you're going to be paying less. So there's huge investment into where you choose to put your fulfillment centers or where you're fulfilling from, and that affects time in transit. That affects speed to get returns back in, so that you're managing your inventory positions more effectively. I just think that whole experience, and you as a company. To me, it's one of the more critical things that should be kept an eye on, just from an expense experience perspective. And those aren't easy decisions, right? You can't just pop open distribution centers without the revenue to do that. There's definitely bottom line impacts that go along with that. But I think either if you have the ability to position yourself with your fulfillment network, that's great. If you don't, then you've got to find the right partners, the right solutions to match customer expectations with time. Now, here's the other trick. If you're not matching time, and you're just not able to meet that, you can't have 3 or 4 distribution centers around the country because that's not in the P&L. You can't afford faster services because that's not part of the P&L at whatever stage you may be at. Then you need to give the experience, and I think there are solutions out there that can help with this. We happen to partner with a company called Narvar, and I don't want to do an infomercial for Narvar here. I just want to talk about why we've partnered with them. And actually, this is the third stop I've been at where I've implemented Narvar. It's just a tremendous post-purchase experience. So once you place your order, there are these other touch points that people want to be kept abreast of, right? So whether it's text messaging or Facebook Messenger, to know what's the status of my order, where's it at, when's it going to deliver, am I going to, do I want a text alert, do I want another type of alert? That experience matters to customers, and being able to make sure, especially with porch pirates now, you see these videos all over the place now where people are just walking up and taking stuff off of people's porches. If you're living in an apartment complex or a condo complex in New York or San Francisco or these places, just leaving packages propped open against doors isn't working either. So that's becoming a bigger problem. You just want to know where your package is at and when it's been delivered, and even make arrangements to be there. So they've solved, they're one of many companies that can solve that issue of keeping you in the loop and keeping your customers informed of delivery, which I do think now is just a mandatory part of the post-purchase experience. I think the other thing, though, that if you're going to have a solution like that, and this is why I'm a big fan of the Narvar solution, is you can actually provide a custom landing page and a branded landing page that you can put marketing assets on. So it's not just, hey, I'm a customer tracking my package. It's when I get my alert or I get my message, it's keeping me, every 15 minutes you can be updated. But I see what the latest sale is. I see what the latest promotion is. I can click right back to the website and shop. So some of the numbers that we're seeing, and we just implemented at Luminess. So just in the past 30 days, we've had 5,000, and one of our brands wasn't quite live yet, but we've had 5,000 tracking IDs, 14,000 visits back to the actual Narvar landing page. 21% of those actually engaged back to the site. Now, what I don't have as of now is the who actually shopped, and then you can have the debate about were they going to come back and shop anyway, or was it the tool that brought them there? But those are pretty strong numbers just based off of a post-purchase tracking number to bring people back into the shopping fold. And what's interesting too is 13% of those actually opted in for text delivery notifications. So new information, it's a new tool that we just implemented. I'm sure over the next 30, 60, 90 days, these numbers will continue to evolve. But the great thing is you're driving revenue, you're driving a better experience, you're keeping your customers informed. So what you can get away with, and I'll tie that back, is if you want to introduce a SurePost or a SmartPost or some delivery option that traditionally takes a little bit longer because of the handoff points between UPS and FedEx to the U.S. Post Office, customers tend to be a little more patient, even if the delivery time's elongated, because they're informed, they know where the package is at, they're not sweating it, they're not anxious about it, they're not calling your call center with a $6 phone call saying, hey, I put my order on this date, I'm just calling to get the status. So there's a return there as well. So I think that experience to me is becoming more and more critical, that once you've made that purchase, how are you as a company connecting with those customers throughout that journey? And if you can, get them back to the site and shopping. So it's to me, it's a double win. So I think, when you think about Luminess and us specifically, and I'll flip over to Steve, but I think, I'm here listening to what you guys are doing, and just how are people leveraging the data? How are you grabbing the data? What do you do with the information? Are you even collecting the right data? Are you doing the right things with the data? And I think, Narvar, or your post-purchase experience, is just another example of that. It's not just a package that's going out with a tracking number. There's so much more information available to you with the right solutions that can help guide. It's not just getting people into the fold and getting people purchasing and making sure you're tailoring your boxes or whatever your offerings are on a monthly basis to them, but it's making sure they have a really good experience, which drives the retention. Which actually helps us hold our subscription business even stronger. About 40% of the orders right now are tied into the subscription business for us, which is critical because it's the replenishment foundational makeup that goes with the airbrush systems and some of the cosmetic items. So what we're finding is we're getting about a 2 to 3 point lift in just the retention factor because they are having better experiences, and we're able to take that data and make some adjustments. So this is another great way to just get more data points. So if you're looking, if you're thinking, hey, once it's shipped, we're sort of done, and then you eyeball returns whenever that happens, I do think you're missing a heck of an opportunity in between to find out what your customers are thinking about their full experience of purchasing from you. Returns, again, I'm not really going to, even for us, that's a huge opportunity right now, so we don't have time really to get into that. Leveraging social media, which a lot of you, I know, I've heard a lot about Instagram. That's just amazing how these platforms have dominated, everything from shipping to purchase, and how you can leverage those tools to help you out, and just continue driving retention using, again, I'll just talk about post-purchase. I mean, I just think if you could find some time in your total efforts of collecting customer insights and data, don't neglect that. We were even looking at it this morning with another gentleman that came down with me for the conference. There's a dashboard that the tool provides, and the ratings you can rate on the Narvar tool. You can actually rate 1 to 5 on your experience and leave comments, which is super insightful too. We take those comments every day from a customer service perspective and logistics to see what we could be doing better. So the fact that people take time to write those is always amazing to me, because I never do that when I'm shopping, but it's super, super helpful. So Anyway, I'll turn it over to Steve and let him talk about the Endicia part of this, but we'll open up for questions when he's done.
Thank you, Aaron. And thank you for allowing us to be your partner on the shipping technology.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure working with you. So I'm with Stamps.com, and Stamps.com is, as I mentioned earlier, we're the leading provider of e-commerce shipping solutions. In 2018, our customers printed over $11 billion worth of shipping, processed shipments worth over $11 billion in shipping cost, 1.5 billion parcels, and over 700,000 customers. So it's a very heavily used ecosystem. And we basically provide innovative solutions under multiple brands. The Stamps.com and Endicia brands are the base, the base technology, the platforms, if you will, and we hold all of the postage part of the shipments in the Stamps.com and Endicia brands. But really, as far as e-commerce is concerned, there are several applications from Shipping Easy, ShipStation, ShipWorks that target a wide range of customers, and the Ship Engine API, which is the web services equivalent of all of that. As well as MetaPack, which is in the United Kingdom and is focused on the very top retailers and e-commerce platforms to help them basically do the full delivery experience for customers from soup to nuts. So a little bit about shipping technology and how it applies to all of us here today. And I think Aaron has said it really well in terms of talking about shipping technology, not just in the warehouse, but really how it impacts all aspects of your sale, from pre-purchase to the purchase to the fulfillment part to the post-purchase. All of those are impacted by your shipping technology, and I think that's one of the things I want to talk about today. We will hit on things that you normally think of with shipping technology, from shipping costs and efficiency, but also we'll talk about customer satisfaction, branding, and how you can actually help your website conversions, your sales conversions, by having the right shipping technology. Obviously the very first thing is shipping technology can help you manage your shipping costs by basically letting you use the right carrier for the right package that you're sending out. This used to be very simple a long time ago. It was all about, like, do you want to get it there fast or slow, and then you pick a carrier and you work with them. But today it's much more complex. As Aaron mentioned, there's zones that you have to worry about. Is your customer close to your fulfillment warehouse, or is it far? The weights of your packages impact which carrier you might use. The dimensions of your packages impact which carrier you might use. And also the service level that your customer is expecting. You have a promise when you sell something to your customer. You made a promise to them as to when you're going to get it. They certainly have an expectation if you haven't made that explicitly. So all of these things and what you invoice the customer for, all of those impact your shipping costs. So what you want to look at is you want to take a holistic look at all of your costs, and you want to do your own analysis on which carrier to use for which part of your shipments. And your software, your technology vendors for shipping technology will be able to help you do that analysis. Certainly, will provide the data, but more importantly, will actually help you with the understanding of the shipping business, so that we can help you do an analysis of what's best for each part of your shipments. And then, when you actually do that analysis, then you can either implement a system which will do rate shopping on a piece-by-piece basis, or you can just build a set of business rules that say, these shipments go with this carrier and these shipments go with this carrier. That all basically gets sorted out, based on your warehouse fulfillment operation. So just as an example of where shipping technology is really important and the complexity of what to look at when you're analyzing your shipping mix, you've got things from dimensional weights, where if your package can weigh 1 pound, but because of its dimensions, it can be rated at 13 pounds or 20 pounds, or even more than that. And that's basically where the dimensions of the package are very important to know and understand. There's accessorial charges, which number in the hundreds. One of the most famous ones is the residential and extended area surcharges. And if you take a look at the customers that go anywhere from basic residential to extended delivery surcharges, up to 25% of the population is covered by that. So if you're using private carriers, you have to look at all those accessorials and see where they fit into your cost. There's net minimums. If you have contracts with your private carriers, there's usually a net minimum per package on each one of those contracts, so you need to take that into account. And then there's volume tiers. Your discounts are based on how much volume you process, and so those are things to take into account. So there's lots. These are just examples of the things you need to take into account. And again, talk to your technology shipping vendor, and if you'd like to talk to me after the talk, I'd be happy to discuss those with you. But we can certainly help guide you there.
And just a quick comment on that too. I think even your product design teams, if you think about, a 1 pound item that gets rated higher because it's very long or it's very tall or just designing, if you're designing handbags, nickel versus brass, or 2 inches longer or 3 inches higher, like those things, if you don't know the impact that those are going to have on the bottom line when you actually start shipping, and what % of the units sold or what % of your orders are going to contain those items that are going to be larger, if you're not designing with this bottom line cost in mind, then it's another missed opportunity. And I'm sure you guys, I'm guessing, I don't know what everybody's roles are, but you've been in meetings where something gets done, it gets put into play, and at the last minute, everybody's trying to figure out how to pack it or how to get it in the box right, or finding out that it just made things go up 2 pounds, which took you up $5 per, and now you've got this margin hit. So these are very real things that people bump into, right? So I think understanding this world, again, not just from a customer perspective, but product design perspective and the impact it can have on the business is absolutely critical. If you really have a fully integrated supply chain, that's from product inception to deliver to doorstep. That's supply chain. It's not just getting it in from China and dealing with tariffs and getting to your warehouse. It's all the way to the customer. So that just reminded me that those are things that just holistically even design into, because the shipping parameters and the rules are changing all the time, whether it's zoning or whether it's dimensional rating. They're always going to win. FedEx and UPS, they're going to beat you. They're going to out-analyze you and outdata you, and you've got to figure out ways to combat and adjust that. So it's just
That's an excellent point. Yeah. It's an excellent point. I mean, it goes to the whole theme is that shipping decisions you make on your shipping impact your entire process as far as e-commerce is concerned, all the way back to the product design in some cases. And when you look at improving your shipping efficiency with the shipping technology, there's basically, obviously the implementation type is the first thing to look at, and there's 3 basic ones. In a warehouse, you can just choose one of an off-the-shelf solution. It's basically a fully integrated user interface. It integrates with your order management system. If you have a WMS, it'll integrate with your WMS, and it'll basically process all your shipments for you. In many cases, we find our customers have some unique needs that they either don't have a WMS and built their own, or for whatever reason, they like to build their own software for running their operation. So a web services API would be the choice to use if you're doing that. And in some cases, you might basically want to work with a shipping technology vendor and just specify a customized solution as your needs are much more complex. And all of these things are available basically, all the way from off the shelf, all the way to a customized solution. And then when you've decided how you're going to do it, really there's a lot of different things that you'll go through with your vendor, but the basics are, in your warehouse, are you going to do a batch printing model where you basically take all your orders, print them all in batch? Or are you going to print, which is the more popular model, is the pick sheet. You print a pick sheet, somebody fulfills the order from the pick sheet, and then you scan the pick sheet and print the shipping label. But since we're in the subscription business, chances are you're either going to do batch printing or you're going to do a hybrid, where you do batch printing for your subscription boxes, which are all basically uniform. And then for the ones that aren't uniform, you may do a pick sheet type process. And then you want to load your product data, including weights and dimensions, into your database, so that because that will help your operation, so you don't have to actually slow down to pack your packages and weigh them, et cetera. And you want to, whatever workflows you decide on in your warehouse, you want to be able to automate them. You want to be able to build business rules into them. Everything from, if you have orders that are coming in from a marketplace where you have a specific SLA that you have to achieve, maybe those are the ones that you build first, and based on that SLA, you predetermine the choices of carriers you're going to use, and you predetermine the mail class that you're going to use with those carriers, and then When you go to the customer experience, you want to schedule email notifications when you do those shipments. You want to basically, you don't want somebody in the warehouse determining how to do those step by step. You want those basically all set up and automated so that you just press a button and it goes. So let's talk a little bit about beyond the warehouse and how shipping technology can help you with your customer satisfaction. And it actually really starts on your website in the sale process. Because really, when you're selling to your customer, you want to be able to tell them when they can expect their package, and you want to be able to be as specific as possible. And so that's where your shipping technology can look at your, the distance from your warehouse to the customer who's on your website, determine for you what your shipping costs and what the delivery expectations are based on performance are going to be. That way, when you quote a delivery time for your customer, you know it's accurate. And then, of course, once you get that, you run that through your warehouse, and then you give it to the right carrier so that it gets there on the time that you promise the customer. The second part of it is making sure your customer has the order visibility. And Aaron talked quite a bit about that. And it's really important, and it's become essential. I mean, the very worst case scenario is that if you don't have any order visibility, you're going to get a lot of customer calls, and you're going to get, the where's my package calls, the WSMOs, where's my order. But really, it's beyond that. It's a bad customer experience, so it's not just the cost of calling in and having to handle that call, but really it's the cost of losing the customer because they don't have visibility into their shipments. So future orders from the customer are very important. And then, of course, your shipping technology has to link to your inventory systems, whether whether it's integrated into the system itself or it's just an off-the-shelf system that you integrate into. You want to make sure that your website, when you're taking an order, all the way to your shipping platform, are all integrated together. So in real time, you know your inventory at all times. That way, you don't sell something you don't have. And so one example on how order status visibility can help you is you send an email notification that the shipment was made to your customer. They know it was already fulfilled. You link them to a specific order tracking web page, and then if there's anything that happens along the way that you missed a deadline, the shipment missed a deadline, the carrier didn't fulfill their promise, whatever, you let them know ahead of time. That way, it's not something that they call you to find out about it. You've actually gotten ahead of it and proactively let the customer know about it. You also want to make sure your shipping technology lets you promote your brand, and you want to promote it everywhere. You want to promote it on your packing slips that you include with your shipments, on your shipping labels, the email notifications that you send to your customers, the tracking web pages for your orders and your shipments. All of the carriers have tracking web pages, but really you're missing a huge opportunity if you don't use your own branded tracking web pages. At the very least, they're branded by you, but also they can include things like your order information in there. So if your order is coming in multiple shipments, your customer knows what's included in each one of those shipments. It's not just a generic email that you're getting from the carrier themselves. And you want to have a returns processing web page. You want to brand that. You want to have your returns authorization forms branded by you. Just put your brand on everything. It's professional, and it's what basically keeps a link between you and your brand. And so here's an example of a branded tracking web page. And again, it keeps your customer engaged with your brand, and it provides the order information with the shipment, so the customer knows what's coming in that shipment when they're looking at the tracking page. And in terms of helping you with growing sales conversions, there's different ways of doing that. Aaron talked about basically remarketing to your customers in the post-sale experience, and that's a great opportunity. But there's also what you can do at the beginning part that has to do with shipping technology. If you're not building in returns into your shipping technology, you're missing an opportunity, because customers, when they evaluate whether they're going to do business with you or not, they're looking at your website to see what your returns policy is. And if they're not comfortable that they can actually return an item to you, a lot of them are not going to purchase from you. And there's lots of different statistics out there, but basically offering a clear returns policy that makes it really easy for customers to return to you is very important, and will boost your conversion rates. And if you can make it a free returns policy, that's a whole business model, and that will boost your conversions much more. So your shipping technology will help you execute that. It'll provide pay-on-use return labels so that you only get charged for those return labels when your customer actually uses them to ship something for you. And you should consider using all options for that, whether it's the private carriers or the Postal Service. Just make it convenient for pickup and drop-off for your customers. And then you want to schedule email marketing with your shipping events. So anytime you receive an order, you should send an email marketing. When you fulfill the order, you send an email marketing. When the order is delivered, that's probably one of your best times to actually ask the customer for a review and ask the customer for an additional purchase or offer them a coupon. Because they just received the order and they're at their happiest. Now's the time to actually hit them with the next offer. And so here's an example of essentially requesting a product review from your customer when they have received the product. Maybe you schedule it right as they receive the product, or maybe you schedule it within 24 hours of when they receive the product. But it's important to do that because having those reviews will boost your conversions, whether it's on your own website or on a marketplace. So with that, we have a few more minutes to take some questions. I appreciate your time and your listening to our session. Any questions from the audience?
Yep.
Great session, you guys. Thank you. How do you recommend dealing with friendly fraud? Customers saying that the first package is not all the tracking shows.
Yeah, and there's tons of examples of that, right? Where people, everybody hear that, right? Just the fraud issues of somebody claiming something either wasn't delivered. It can be an item. So I ordered 4 things. I'm going to call and say one of them wasn't included in the package. I think that's the more common thing that we'll see. But the idea that just somebody saying, hey, I just never received the order at all, can you reship? A couple of things go into that. I think if it's a missing item, one of the things you can do from a technology perspective is because, and Steve mentioned this, the weights and the dimensions of all your products should be included in the order. So it would be easy to tell by the weight of the actual package that you get back if something was truly missing. So I think that becomes a key data point that your customer service team need to have access to, so you're not just sort of giving away. Customer history is really the main thing, right? I think there's a bit of a judgment call with customer service teams, customer care teams when customers are calling, and if it's a first-time customer, it's a little harder to gauge. Obviously, if it's somebody who's been ordering, at some point in time, you would do your due diligence and then take the customer's word. I think if they're really trying to be fraudulent, the odds of them calling back after that are probably not going to be too high. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot to be in because you do have to make a judgment call at some point. And we tend to just err on the side of just reship and track the history. And if you have any further issues, and it depends on the dollar value of the item too, right? If we're talking about a $100, $200 airbrush system, that's going to get a little more attention and scrutiny than a $20 lipstick or something else. So I would hope that people typically aren't going out of their way to get the $20 item for free. But again, it happens. People are interesting. You get surprised every day in the customer care world. But I just think history really matters. I think having some technology to support that what you're shipping was actually shipped and tracked along the way, which is why it's actually another reason why I think the whole having a solution in place for your tracking and not just relying on a tracking number going to a carrier website is important. So you can clock along the way that it's moving and you don't have something happening with pilferage en route or whatever the case may be. That's a great question. I don't have like the solve. I just think giving data and access and making some judgment calls are really the only thing you can do.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I think look to your CRM to see if there's repeat offenders, people that are calling you over and over and over again with that issue. Obviously, somebody calls you for the first time and they're a good customer, you want to take care of them because the cost of acquiring that customer is very high, and you really want to take care of the customer. But sometimes these things do happen. There's areas that are not safe to leave packages in, and so look at different carrier options and look at delivery options. There are a lot of carriers that will hold the package at a place that the customer can pick it up from. So if you've got customers that frequently run into that issue, you can actually offer to change the delivery location. You can use parcel lockers, you can use post offices. So that's one option to do, is if you have a really good customer, but they have a higher than average rate of theft, let's say, for their packages, consider going to a different location for their shipments.
Yeah, and just a quick note on that too, like Narvar, for example, just announced a partnership with Walgreens, so you can have all your packages delivered and do your returns from a Walgreens location. So there's options like that that you can go to extremes to protect yourself. Yeah.
Well, we'd like to thank you guys for your wonderful presentation. Obviously, everybody enjoyed it. They're still standing here asking lots of questions. Here's a special thank you from SUPTA.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.